The latest news from Gallup is the number of people identifying as LGBT has doubled in the last 10 years. Surprise, surprise. And those under 25 are driving the numbers. That's right. Generation Z is the most programmed, some would say brainwashed, in history. It's been over a half-century-long effort to deceive American youth, deconstruct morality, destroy family values along with Judeo-Christian influence, groom school children, redefine truth, and train up an army of godless, rebellious young people. I'm David Fiorazo, and this is Christ and Culture. In my great-grandparents' generation, I wonder what percentage of Americans identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. I think we can all guess with great accuracy almost zero. But according to a new Gallup poll, 7.2% of U.S. adults identify as LGBTQ today. In 2012, Gallup began reporting on LGBT identification, and the number was 3.5% of Americans. Now, there are a number of factors involved here, including Hollywood, the liberal media, the Antichrist education system, pushers of DEI and wokeness, leftist politicians, the 2015 SCOTUS decision on gay marriage, in quotes, big tech, social media, but few reports seem to analyze the massive influence on kids by their friends. Author and conservative talk show host Dennis Prager believes it's obvious that today's young adults have been deeply influenced by their peers. He said, the chances are good for your son or daughter to identify as LGBT, especially if they go to a big city public school. And from recent reports, small town schools aren't far behind. Same ideology, same teachers union, same media messaging, different town and population. Dennis Prager adds this, quote, what the left is doing to this country is destroying it. It's as simple as that. And if you vote for the Democrat Party, you are participating in the destruction of the country and the consequences to your children and grandchildren, end quote. Now, a key takeaway from the new poll is the growing presence of Generation Z when it comes to embracing new identities. It's not a newsflash to say Gen Z is more likely than any other age group or generation in history to identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or something other than heterosexual. Gallup also showed only 75% of Gen Z respondents called themselves straight or heterosexual, compared to 92% of older adult Americans. Now, Gen Z includes those adults born between 1997 and 2004. In this age group, nearly 1 in 5, or almost 20%, members consider themselves part of the LGBT community, with 13% describing themselves as bisexual. What's really sobering is the fact the proportion of all Americans who identify as LGBT can be expected to grow. Why? Younger generations will make up a larger share of the total U.S. population of adults. Now, the last couple of generations in particular have generally conformed to secular culture. They were taught to reject God, and they bought the lie of evolution, which is why we now see moral relativism and postmodernism rule the day. Writing at the Christian Post, Ryan Foley states, the trans-identified population has become a significant focus in American public policy as states take measures to require student athletes to compete on sports teams that correspond with their biological sex and ban the genital mutilation of minors with gender dysphoria. These are things most of us never imagined having to legislate to protect: biological facts, science, and truth. Yet, here we are. But the feelings of young people today and philosophies of this world and facts, keeping it all in perspective, those identifying as queer asexual, pansexual, or an other category within the LGBT movement account for just 0.1% of the overall U.S. population. Now, you may be saying to yourself, wait, that's all? 0.1? Well, as I reported just a few months ago, the whole agenda dominates culture, but the numbers don't add up. Be reminded how important it is to understand the ignored and overlooked fact that according to a recent U.S. census, same-sex married couples, for example, only consist of 0.9% of American households. Who needs higher numbers when you have such widespread influence and effective propaganda like the left does? They cannot reproduce, so they must recruit. The left has far greater access to children than ever before in history. Our part is to preach Jesus, to understand the times, and expose evil, especially when it is being called good. God bless you, and keep speaking the truth about things that matter.